Marcus Chang had everything a man could want. Towers of glass and steel in 4 cities, a yacht docked in Marina Bay, a private jet that sat ready at Changi Airport. When he walked into a boardroom, conversations stopped. When he spoke at conferences, people recorded every word. His family owned Chang Pacific Holdings, a name that moved markets and made politicians return calls. People respected him. Some feared him. But late at night, when the city lights reflected off the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, Marcus felt something no one else could see: emptiness. He was tired of people who smiled at his net worth, tired of dinners where everyone laughed at his stories before he finished the punchline, tired of waking up in a bedroom the size of most people's apartments and still feeling like something was missing. His friends were really just business allies. His social events were just networking sessions with champagne. And the women, they were beautiful, educated, well-dressed, but they always seemed to be looking just past him at the name, the stock price, the skyline he owned. Then came Vivian. She was sharp, graceful, and knew how to make him laugh in a way that felt real. He trusted her. He bought her a diamond ring from a jeweler on Orchard Road. He planned a future together. He even told his mother. But 3 weeks before the engagement announcement, Marcus returned early from a Tokyo trip and found Vivian in his private lounge, sitting with his head of strategy, their fingers intertwined, laughing in the way that people only laugh when no one is supposed to be watching. Marcus stood in the doorway for a moment. Then he turned around, walked back to the elevator, and pressed the button for the lobby. He canceled everything: the announcement, the photographer, the venue deposit. He let the head of strategy go quietly, framed as a restructuring. And then Marcus Chang, the man who moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost anything, disappeared from his own life for several days. His executive assistant, Nora Tan, fielded all calls, telling people he was on a silent retreat in Bali. In truth, he was sitting in his penthouse with the lights off, turning the same question over and over in his mind. If I had nothing, no company, no name, no building, would anyone choose me? One rainy Tuesday evening, while thunder rolled across the Singapore Strait, Marcus picked up his phone and called Nora. "I need something from you. Something strange." Nora had worked for him for 8 years. She had survived every version of Marcus Chang, the driven version, the grieving version, the triumphant version. She said, "Tell me."
I want old clothes, nothing branded, worn shoes, and I want you to tell no one where I'm going. Nora paused just long enough to process this. "Yes, sir," she said. Marcus stopped shaving. He let his stubble grow thick and uneven. He packed a single canvas bag, a change of plain clothes, a small amount of cash, and nothing else. No phone case with his initials, no card with the Chang Pacific logo. He took a cab to the older district of Gaylong, checked into a bare guesthouse room that smelled of damp walls and old cooking oil, and began his quiet disappearance. By day, he walked the streets. He helped unload trucks in the morning market for a few dollars. He washed dishes at a hawker stall when the owner looked short-handed. He carried furniture for a moving company, his arms aching in a way they had not since university. People paid him in crumpled notes. No one knew his face. No one recognized him. And for the first time in many years, Marcus Chang felt like just a man. Back at Chang Pacific, Nora was quietly arranging the other part of the experiment. She used a discreet matchmaking service to set up introductions for Marcus. Each woman was told the same simple story. You are meeting a man who worked well for many years, lost his business in a difficult economy, and is now doing manual work while trying to find his way forward. There was no mention of any family name, no mention of any tower on the skyline. Marcus met these women at ordinary places, a kopitiam near Toapayo, a hawker center in Clementi, a park bench outside a community library. He wore a plain polo shirt and rubber slippers. He arrived early and sat with his hands folded, watching people walk by, waiting to see what would happen. Nora had also arranged something Marcus did not know about the first time around. 2 quiet security men sat nearby at every meeting, dressed like ordinary uncles eating economy rice, their eyes never leaving him. The first date arrived in a taxi. Her name was Priscilla, a lifestyle influencer with a large following on TikTok, known for her luxury hotel reviews and unboxing videos. She wore sunglasses indoors and looked at the plastic stool across from Marcus as if it had personally offended her. "This is the place?" she asked, not quite to him, more to the air around her. Marcus smiled. "The chicken rice here is very good." She sat down, but her phone was on the table before she was fully seated. She took one look at his shoes, one look at the stall signboard, and said, "I'm gonna be honest, I thought this was a joke invitation." She left when her drink arrived, without touching it. The second woman was a corporate lawyer named Danica. She was more measured about it. She asked good questions, but they felt less like curiosity and more like a credit check. "Where exactly do you stay? Is the room yours or shared? Do your parents have property? What was your highest salary before the business failed?" She brought a small notebook. She did not eat. She said she would be in touch. She was not. The third woman, a school teacher named Felicia, seemed different at first. She spoke warmly. She said she had grown up without much money and understood what real hardship felt like. She held his hand across the table. She said she believed in second chances. Marcus walked her home that evening feeling something he hadn't felt in months: cautious hope. By the next morning, she had sent a message asking if he could help with 3 months of rent because her landlord was pressing her. The message arrived before Marcus had finished his morning coffee. He set down the cup and stared at the ceiling. Less than 12 hours. He put the phone face down on the mattress and sat very still. Marcus spent the following evening sitting outside the guest house on a plastic chair, watching motorbikes pass under the orange streetlights. He called Nora. "I'm done," he said flatly. "Sir?" "It doesn't exist, Nora. Whatever I was looking for, it's not there." Nora was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My husband was working as a shipping clerk when I met him. We had our first date at a hawker center. I paid for my own bowl of noodles because neither of us had much. That was 11 years ago. He still brings me coffee every morning without being asked." Marcus said nothing. Nora added, "Don't let 3 wrong people convince you that the right one doesn't exist." He sat with that for a long time. Then he said, "Fine, one more try, but this time I go all the way. No job, no story of a failed business. I disappear completely."
Nora brought him the final layer of disguise: a torn jacket with a stain down one sleeve, loose trousers with a frayed hem, and a pair of sandals that were held together more by habit than by rubber. She added a faded canvas sack. When Marcus looked at himself in the cracked mirror above the guest house sink, he genuinely could not find the CEO of Cheng Pacific anywhere in the reflection. He spent 5 days sitting at different spots around the older parts of the city, near the entrance of a wet market in Chinatown, by a bus interchange in Jurong, at the edge of a community garden in Queenstown. He sat still. He did not speak unless spoken to. People dropped coins. People looked away. One woman photographed him from a distance and posted it with the caption, "Grateful for my blessings," without once looking at his face directly. On the 5th afternoon, the sky darkened fast, and rain fell with the kind of force that empties a street in minutes. Marcus pulled the jacket tighter and pressed himself against the wooden awning outside a small tailoring shop whose painted sign had mostly washed away. He was wet. He was cold. He was quietly starting to feel like this whole experiment had proven something he did not want it to prove. Then a woman came running across the road under a small umbrella, a plastic bag swinging from her wrist, her sandal slapping the wet concrete. She wore a light blue kebaya top and dark trousers. Her hair was pinned up under a small clip. She saw him the moment she ducked under the awning, and she did not look away. She did not look through him. She looked at him the way you look at someone you are actually seeing. "Why, you're quite wet," she said, not with pity, but simply as an observation. She set her bag down, opened it, and took out a container. "I just bought this from the mixed rice stall, chicken and vegetables. You hungry?" She held it out with both hands, the way you offer something to someone you respect. He took it slowly. "Thank you," he said. He meant it more than she could know. She took a small cloth from her bag and set it over his shoulders. "It's dry. You'll catch a fever sitting here like this." She straightened up and smiled. "I'm Mei Lin. I do alterations in this shop here and teach English at the community center down the road." "I'm Marcus," he said, "just trying to get through the day." "I can see that. The rain doesn't help." She didn't take a photo. She didn't ask what had happened to him. She didn't look at him the way people look at a problem they are deciding whether to involve themselves in. She just talked to him the way a person talks to another person. Simple, warm, real. The rain did not stop. Mei Lin opened the back door of the tailoring shop and said he was welcome to sit inside until it passed. The shop was narrow and bright. A long table covered in folded cloth, 2 old sewing machines, a rack of half-finished dresses along one wall, and a board covered with small paper patterns. It smelled of fabric and thread, and the faint sweetness of the jasmine plant on the window ledge. She made tea on a small electric kettle. She handed it to him with both hands. He held the cup and felt something warm that had nothing to do with the temperature. Over the following days, Marcus kept coming back. He helped clean the shop in the mornings. He carried deliveries and held fabric steady while she cut patterns. She brought him rice at lunchtime and talked about her students and their progress. She laughed easily. She did not perform kindness. She simply was kind in the way that requires no audience. One afternoon, in a moment of honesty, Marcus took out a folded check from the lining of his jacket. He had prepared it before this whole experiment began. He set it on the table. $5 million, he said. She picked it up, read it once, and set it back down with a small smile. "You're practicing your handwriting," she said, and went back to her sewing. She genuinely did not believe it, and the fact that she didn't believe it was the most convincing thing she could have done. 2 weeks into knowing each other, Mei Lin grew quiet one evening while they sat on the low step outside the shop, sharing a packet of roasted chestnuts. "My family has a dinner this weekend. My father's 65th birthday. Everyone will be there." "That's nice," Marcus said. She looked at him sideways. "They're going to ask me why I haven't brought anyone home yet. They always do." He nodded. She paused. "Would you come, just as a friend, someone I know? You don't have to say anything. Just be there." She was not embarrassed to ask. She was not apologizing for him or for herself. She just asked plainly. Marcus said yes. The dinner was held at a large flat in Tampines, a whole floor of a housing block reserved for the celebration. Round tables were set up in the living room and corridor, steaming dishes arriving in slow waves from the kitchen, red banners, loud relatives, children weaving between chairs. Marcus wore a clean plain shirt. He had trimmed his beard slightly. He looked ordinary and comfortable. Mei Lin's older brother, Raymond, spotted them the moment they arrived. Raymond was a regional director at a bank and dressed for the part, even at a family dinner. Tailored shirt, polished watch, the particular confidence of a man who evaluates people by habit. He looked Marcus up and down with a single glance. "This is your friend?" he said, addressing Mei Lin but not looking at her. Marcus extended his hand. Raymond shook it lightly, as if checking something fragile. "What do you do?" he asked. A few different things, Marcus said pleasantly. Raymond's expression said that he had heard that answer before and had learned what it meant. Later, Mei Lin's ex-boyfriend turned up. His name was Desmond, and he had been invited by Mei Lin's mother, who had always liked him. Desmond worked as a floor manager at a branch of a real estate company, wore a watch he had talked about for months on social media, and entered every room as if the room had been waiting for him. He greeted Marcus with a long handshake and the kind of smile that is designed to make someone feel like they are being assessed. "So, you're the new friend," Desmond said. "Nice to meet you, man. What's your line?" Marcus smiled. "I do a bit of everything right now." Desmond glanced at Marcus's shoes, then back at Mei Lin, and said just loudly enough for the table nearest them to hear, "From where I'm standing, it looks like you went from business class to standing room only." A few people laughed. Mei Lin straightened. "From where I'm standing, I went from someone who cheating on me to someone who treats me with respect. I'd call that an upgrade." The table went quiet. Mei Lin's mother came over shortly after. She was sharp and direct, a woman who had run her own small clothing shop for 20 years and had opinions about everything. She sat across from Marcus and asked calmly, "My daughter tells me you're between jobs. How do you plan to look after her?" Marcus looked her steadily. "Right now, I can't give you a full answer to that," he said, "but I can tell you that I won't lie to you." She studied him. "That's a careful answer," she said. "It is," he agreed. She didn't smile, but she didn't leave either. That night, Marcus stepped out to the corridor and made one quiet phone call. "Nora," he said, "send the car tomorrow morning, and the package." The next morning, while the family was finishing breakfast together, a sound came from downstairs, the low, steady hum of an engine that people in Singapore associate with certain kinds of wealth. 2 black cars pulled up to the void deck. A man in a pressed white shirt stepped out carrying a box and a sealed envelope. "I'm looking for the family of Miss Mei Lin," he said to the uncle near the lift. Mei Lin's mother came downstairs. The box contained keys to a car. The envelope contained a brief letter, a gift for her mother's household, from Marcus, with no further explanation. The courtyard filled with confusion and noise. Before Marcus could say a word, Desmond stepped forward from somewhere near the back, straightened his collar, and loudly said, "Actually, I arranged that. You know how it is. Big occasion. Had to do something special for Mei Lin's family." He smiled at the uncle beside him. "I'm with a major real estate group, so these things," he gestured vaguely at the cars. A few people clapped. Raymond looked impressed. Mei Lin's mother turned to smile at Desmond. Marcus stood quietly at the edge of the group and watched. He said nothing. He let it happen. The following week, Mei Lin's university classmate, Serene, held a housewarming at her new condominium in River Valley. Polished floors, accent lighting, a long table of catered food. Everyone brought gifts and wore their best casual clothes. Marcus came in his usual plain shirt. Whispers reached them before they had reached the food table. Is that really who she brought? She was the top student in their cohort, right? Hard to tell what happened. Serene greeted them with a careful smile. She turned to Marcus. "And what do you do?" When Marcus gave his usual non-answer, a man across the table said, "He looks like he fixes the generator, to be honest." More laughter. Another guest leaned toward Mei Lin and said, "You used to have such standards." And then Serene said to the security guard near the door in a voice that carried, "I think it's better if some guests don't linger too long. You know how the management office is about guests." Marcus stood up. Mei Lin was already on her feet, her handbag under her arm. She looked around the room slowly. "I want to say one thing," she said. "You can judge whoever you want, but you should know you don't actually know who's in the room." She took Marcus's hand. "Let's go." They were at the door when Nora arrived. 3 black cars in the drop-off lane, a driver holding a door open. Nora stepping out in a charcoal blazer, walking toward Marcus with a small nod. Sir, the Shanghai Group confirmed. The $700 million deal needs your signature this evening. The room behind them had gone completely silent. Someone had started recording on their phone. Marcus turned back toward the room. His voice was even and clear. My name is Marcus Chang, CEO of Chang Pacific Holdings. He let that land. I came to Mei Lin as a man with nothing because I needed to know what nothing felt like to the people around me. He looked at Mei Lin. She fed me when I looked hungry. She gave me shelter from the rain when she thought I had nowhere to go. She treated me like a person when I had no reason to expect it. He reached into his jacket and brought out the velvet box he had been carrying for 2 weeks. He opened it. The room inhaled. Mei Lin, he said, I came to you with empty hands. You filled them. Will you marry me? Mei Lin looked at the ring. Then she looked at him. Her eyes were full. She nodded. Yes, she said. Obviously, yes. The room broke into the particular silence of people who have said something they deeply regret.
2 days later, Marcus was at the Chang Pacific boardroom on the 42nd floor. The Shanghai delegation had flown in for the final signing of a joint development agreement. $700 million, a landmark deal that had taken 14 months to negotiate. 8 people on their side, all senior, all expecting to meet the Chang Pacific CEO. Instead, when they arrived, they were greeted by a junior executive who offered them tea and explained that Mr. Chang is running slightly behind. Nora had quietly arranged for Mei Lin to be present, not introduced, not announced, simply seated near the window, in a plain dress, reviewing some documents, looking for all the world like a member of the administrative support team. The lead negotiator from Shanghai, a man named Director Huang, settled in and began speaking in Mandarin to his colleagues, as he often did when he wanted to speak privately in a room full of people he assumed did not follow. He said, in fluent and rapid Mandarin, that the terms they had agreed to were only their opening concession, and that if the Chang Pacific CEO showed up late to his own signing, they could push for a further discount of 8%. His colleague laughed and agreed. The woman by the window, the one who looked like she was handling paperwork, did not look up. Marcus arrived 4 minutes later, unhurried in a dark suit. He greeted Director Huang warmly, gestured around the table, and then nodded toward Mei Lin. I'd like to introduce someone important to this meeting, he said. This is Mei Lin. She'll be joining Chang Pacific's senior advisory team. He smiled at Director Huang. She also spent 3 years in Guangzhou and is entirely comfortable in Mandarin, in case that changes anything about the conversation you were just having. Director Huang's color changed completely. He looked at Mei Lin. Mei Lin looked back at him with a calm, unhurried expression and said in perfectly clear Mandarin, It's a pleasure to meet you. I believe the original terms were already fair. Shall we proceed? The deal was signed at the original terms, not $1 less. As the Shanghai delegation filed out, Marcus leaned over to Mei Lin and said quietly, Where did that come from? She smiled. I grew up in Guangzhou, moved here when I was 16. I just don't usually mention it. He shook his head slowly. You are full of surprises. So are you, she said. That evening, Marcus took Mei Lin to meet his parents in the family home in Bukit Timah, a large colonial bungalow surrounded by old trees. The kind of house that has been in the same family long enough that it no longer needs to announce itself. His mother, Eleanor, was seated in the formal living room when they arrived. She was dressed as if the meeting had been scheduled weeks in advance. She had done her research. She was polite to Mei Lin, very polite, the politeness of someone who has decided not to be rude yet. She complimented Mei Lin's dress and asked about her work, and Marcus could see his mother's mind working behind every question, calculating, categorizing. After Mei Lin stepped out to take a call, Eleanor turned to Marcus and said quietly but directly, "She's lovely, but Marcus, the Han family in Kuala Lumpur, their daughter Vivica just completed her MBA at Wharton. Her father has been trying to reach us about the industrial port project. That's a $4 billion opportunity, generations of security." Marcus looked at his mother steadily. "I'm not interested. You're being emotional." "Maybe," he said, "but you raised me to know the difference between a deal and a life. This is my life." His father, seated nearby and quiet until now, said, "He's not wrong, Eleanor." She turned to look at her husband. He met her eyes without flinching. "Let the boy be." Marcus's mother stood and went out to look out the window at the garden. "If you choose her over the direction this family has built, then I choose her," Marcus said. She turned back. "You would give up the board seat? The stake? I have my own assets. I built those without the family name." The room held the silence of a very old argument arriving at a new conclusion. His mother said nothing more that evening.
Marcus found her note on a Tuesday morning. Her sewing machine was covered. Her teaching bag was gone. The note was written in small, careful letters on a page torn from a notebook. "I love you, but I won't be the reason you lose everything that belongs to you. You deserve to fly. Mei Lin." Marcus stood in the small shop for a long time, the note in his hand. Then he started looking. He called her phone, no answer. He went to her flat. A neighbor said she had moved out. He visited the community center where she taught. She had taken a leave of absence. He stood outside the tailoring shop on the evening he had first met her, in the rain, and felt a strange fullness in his chest that he did not know how to describe. He had walked away from hundreds of millions of dollars without hesitation, but this felt like a loss he did not know how to absorb. Meanwhile, Mei Lin had moved to a quieter neighborhood in Woodlands, renting a small room from a friend. She had found a new teaching position at a community school. She told herself every morning that she had made the right choice. Some mornings she believed it. At night, she held her pillow and missed him with a specific and unhelpful precision. There was also something else she had not told him, a small test strip on her bathroom shelf, 2 lines that changed the size of every decision she had ever made. The Chain Pacific Annual Gala was held at Marina Bay Sands. Glass walls, a view of the water, 500 guests in formal wear. The announcement planned for that evening, confirmed and publicized in the business press, was that Marcus Chang would announce his engagement to Vivica Han, sealing the alliance between the two families in the port project that had been in discussion for 2 years. Vivica stood near the main entrance in a gold gown, flanked by PR people and photographers. Marcus arrived late on purpose. He walked to the stage without greeting anyone along the way. He picked up the microphone. The room settled. "I have an announcement," he said, "but not the one you read about." He paused. "I've spent the last few weeks learning something that took longer than it should have. I've learned that power built on the right foundation lasts, and the right foundation for me is a person." He looked out at the crowd. "Her name is Mei Lin. And if I can't stand up here and say that clearly in front of everyone who matters to my career and my family name, then none of this means anything to me." He set the microphone down. He walked out. The room filled with the sound of 500 people processing something they had not expected. Nora found Mei Lin's address through a chain of quiet questions and careful effort. She gave it to Marcus without comment. He drove himself to Woodlands on a Wednesday afternoon, parked on the street, and walked up to the door of the small flat. Mei Lin opened it and went still when she saw him. They stood looking at each other for a moment. Then she stepped back to let him in. The room was small and very clean. A sewing machine in the corner, student worksheets on the table, a small pot of something cooking on the stove. Marcus stepped inside and saw the tiny physical evidence of the life she had built without him and felt grateful for it and sad about it at the same time. He looked at her. She was thinner than he remembered, and she was carrying something, a heaviness,
a secret that he could see in the careful way she held herself. He did not ask immediately. He just sat down in the chair she offered him and said, "I missed you." She sat across from him. "You know I was going to come." She looked at her hands. "Marcus." "Mei-Lin." She looked up. Her eyes were full. She said, "There's something I need to tell you." He waited. "I'm pregnant." The room was very quiet. Marcus looked at her for a long time. Then he moved to where she was, lowered himself to one knee on the clean floor, and placed both hands gently over hers. "Then there are two of you I need to bring home."
His mother saw Mei-Lin at a charity function in a community hall in Bishan before Marcus had time to arrange a formal introduction. She had come alone to donate books to a children's reading program. Mei-Lin was there as a volunteer, reading to a group of small children, her voice soft and easy, her patience visible. Eleanor Chang stood in the doorway and watched. A staff member leaned over and said, "She comes every week. The children love her." Eleanor stood very still. She saw the way Mei-Lin moved, careful, unhurried, present. She saw the way the children reached for her hand. She did not say anything to anyone. She went home and sat in the garden for a long time. That evening, she told Marcus's father what she had seen. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, "I know." She said, "She's the right one." He said, "I know that too." She was quiet for a moment. "I owe her an apology," she said. He nodded. "Yes," he said, "you do." The meeting at the Bukit Timah house was arranged for the following Sunday. When Mei-Lin arrived, Eleanor Chang stood up, met her at the door, and said before anyone had sat down, "I made a judgment I had no right to make. I'm sorry." Mei-Lin looked at her for a moment. "Thank you," she said. "That means a great deal." Marcus's father walked over and shook her hand firmly. "Welcome to the family," he said. "We are very glad you are here." The apology calls from Mei-Lin's family followed. One by one, her aunts, her uncle, her cousins, people who had doubted her choices, who had whispered about her not settling down properly, who had compared her unfavorably to cousins with corporate jobs and matching outfits, called to say they had been wrong. Raymond called last. He was brief. "I misjudged the situation," he said. "I was looking at the wrong things." "It's okay," she said. "You can make it up to me by being a good uncle." He laughed, a little awkwardly, but genuinely. As for Desmond, he had told the wrong version of the gift story to the wrong people one too many times, and the real version had found its way back to enough people that his reputation for exaggeration had overtaken his reputation for success. He did not reach out. Nobody blamed him exactly. Certain things have a way of sorting themselves.
3 months after the wedding, Chang Pacific announced record earnings. The Shanghai partnership had expanded. New investors joined who said publicly that they had watched Marcus's speech at the gala and decided he was someone they could trust for the long term. There is a particular kind of credibility that comes from watching someone choose principle over convenience, and Marcus had it now in a way that no deal alone could have built. Mei-Lin continued her English classes at the community center every Tuesday and Thursday morning. She also started a small design consultancy for affordable tailoring, which she ran from a proper studio that Marcus set up for her in a shophouse in Tiong Bahru. She did not give up the alterations shop entirely. She kept its key on her keychain next to the key to their home. Their daughter was born in the spring. They named her Raina, after rain, which is where they found each other, in a doorway, under a leaking awning with nothing to offer except the ordinary human kindness of a warm meal shared with a stranger. People sometimes asked Marcus
What had changed in him? He always thought about it for a moment before answering. I stopped trying to find out who loved the name, he would say. And I met someone who loved the person. That was enough. It was, it turned out, everything.